Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Marina Velikova. I'm heading Barona Relocation. And now we are going to have a very interesting talk about how the last difficult year has affected the recruitment and relocation process for the studios that are participating here in the event. So just quickly to introduce you the guests that I have today. So I have Ekaterina Dolgova from Red Hill Games, Bea Grandel from Seriously Digital Entertainment, and Jonna Knuti from Ubisoft Red Links. Welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So I would like to start with I will share just quickly a couple of slides just to show you very quickly. We did a survey asking the studios that are participating in today's event about how has basically the pandemic affected their recruitment and relocation process. So it was very interesting to see actually that, and positive to see that the gaming industry has been actually positively affected by the pandemic. And all the respondents have confirmed that they have continued to recruit for more than half. Basically the needs have either increased or remained the same. And all of the respondents also confirmed that they do foresee an increase in their recruitment needs in the near future. And also, what is also very interesting and important probably for a lot of the viewers we have today, more than half of the recruitments are still from outside of Finland, so talent is coming from abroad. Now, when it comes to the challenges, yes, the recruitment process has been more challenging. So this is obvious, but still most of the employers would still like to relocate the talent here. So remote work is an option, but in most cases it's temporary option, and all of the respondents would still prefer to relocate the person whenever it's possible. As many of the studios, as they mentioned in their presentations yesterday and today, basically the recruitment process has been adjusted to fit the current limitations, but they are responding that maybe they would not necessarily keep all of the changes in the future. And of course, the onboarding process. This has been a challenge, I guess, also for local and foreign talent. So this is also something interesting topic that we will cover also today. So basically, everything is remote, so it requires more effort and more time, and it's more difficult. I would like to start to ask you guys, what do you think? Are you surprised by the results, and do you see these same trends in your own companies? Bea, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the results are quite go hand in hand with our approach and what we have experienced so far. But I'm really happy to see that recruitment hasn't stopped, and recruitment from abroad hasn't stopped due to COVID. So nothing can stop us. That's good. But also I'm quite overwhelmed about the fact that there has been so many people who have relocated to Finland during pandemic, because it's not just that we are able to hire them, but for them to make that decision that, okay, I'm gonna move to a new country during pandemic. So that's a huge deal. One thing I was not surprised, but something close to that is that how companies are not using freelancers or don't necessarily hire people to work from abroad to Helsinki-based company, for example, that much. And yeah, but I think I know why, but it's still interesting to see that despite the huge talent need that many companies have at the moment, that hasn't increased.
Katja, what do you think?
Well, I think the survey just shows what happens in the industry, because the games are being developed for the worldwide people to enjoy. Therefore, having an international team complements this possibility. So for us, whenever we have an opening, we look worldwide. And with pandemic, it did, because we had to amend our process. We like to see people in person, interact with them, discuss different stuff before we make a decision. That unfortunately wasn't possible because attending the physical interview is not a valid reason to enter country right now. Therefore, we had to replace it with the multiple extra calls. Otherwise, we're always looking for the talents, doesn't matter where they are, because this is what is missing in the team. And if they are local, perfect. If they are not, we'll try to make it happen and bring them over.
Jonna, what do you think?
Yes, well, I totally agree with Ekaterina and Bea with their answer. I think the reason why we are not using so much freelancer contracts or having people working from abroad is our taxation in Finland. Unfortunately, it is very complicated on that case. But yes, I think it has been still a positive thing that we've been able to relocate people. Nevertheless, there has been this COVID-19 situation, and of course, it has been difficult. But hopefully, this will get easier, and the results. I think they were not surprising, but yes.
Yeah. How would you say that the recruitment process at the moment, how does it differ if you would have a candidate that is based in Finland or based in the same city where the studio is, compared to if you have a candidate who is not in Finland physically? Does it even differ at the moment, the process?
Yes, so before the COVID-19, we used to fly the final candidates also to Finland to a final round of interviews and to visit Helsinki. But of course, this ended last year. So we did also with the local candidates. So we didn't have the possibility to have them here at the studio because we wanted to keep our studio safe for our current employees. So now that we have to do the final round remotely, it's always more difficult to us and for the candidate to do the final decision on whether to join us or not. And like Eka said, that we have to have more calls, more talks remotely because we can't have the face-to-face interaction with the candidate. So this always makes the decision more risky for both. So the match not be, and of course it's a more difficult decision to the candidate to move Helsinki or to Finland and never even been here. So yes, yeah. I hope we will return back to normal as soon as possible on this matter.
Yeah. As you say, it requires quite a bit of courage to do this move. Bea, would you say that the process differs, or is it the same for local and foreign candidates?
Yeah, well, definitely there is a lot more information that is shared than with local candidates. One simple explanation is probably that you can't really expect someone from abroad to understand what a lunch card is or which bank to visit. So the whole relocation, the recruitment process takes a lot more effort and time, which is all right because we're willing to put that much time and effort to that. But other than that, the trickiest part is currently that we don't necessarily see people face to face. This is super challenging. During the recruitment process, I I try to also build an environment, also of course with local candidates, but especially with international candidates, that you build an environment where they are not afraid to ask any questions. You tell the bad things, you tell the good things, you tell the candidate that you can ask anything about us or the team or anyone else seriously, and we'll give you the whole truth and we'll support you the whole way. One thing that is probably different, tiny factor, is that I use Skype for this kind of fast track conversations, because sometimes my email inbox is just way too full. So a Skype is like a fast track conversation to hop on if the person has quick questions about something.
Yeah. Okay, that's a very good practical tip. Katja, what is your view?
Well, I would say it is slightly different for us if the candidate is local or foreign, because with locals, especially in the Helsinki area or with the easy reach, it's still possible to arrange for the final stage some sort of like personal meeting for lunch or something, to interact in person at least a little bit. It doesn't replace a complete studio visit, but it still gives you and the candidates better idea who you are both as people. With the remote people whom we're interviewing and about to make an offer, we try to replace it with like virtual beers. And sometimes it does work because people can just focus and talk about like random things to see how they would interact afterwards. When they change their life, they move to another country, and they will have to spend time with those people. Because that's, again, like dating online and then deciding are you going to connect your life with those people or not. So some informal interaction in our eyes like helps to make a decision on both sides.
Yeah, exactly. It creates the environment to ask those maybe even stupid questions or things that you might think that they're difficult to ask. So what would you say would be what relocation support is essential when you think what the employers should offer and what typically studios in Finland offer to their employees? So in your experience, what do you see as a must? That's something that needs to be offered. Katja, maybe you can start.
Yeah, I can start. Again, that's slightly different from before and during pandemic, because before, as Joona was saying, like familiarization trip was important, and I would consider it as a must. Also for people to understand what is the environment, would they like to live in the city and connect with those people. So altogether, for us, it was very important stage. Right now, it's bare minimum. We share resources which are available from the companies like Barona, talking about the country, explaining different aspects, tax, which was mentioned already, and some other things which are available in the country, and in most of the cases wouldn't be available in the others. Like if you recruit from the States, the whole idea of healthcare is very different. So you would need to explain it in more details for people to make their mind that although they may be losing in the net salary, but they're gaining so much more in healthcare. So they can make decision that it's worth moving. And in addition to that, there would be like some standard things like helping with the movement from one place to another, and then supporting local registrations. Because obviously, like English is good for living, but when you go to the authorities and you need to fill in forms in Finnish, that might be complicated. So some support would be required, and also with things like lunch cards, entertainment cards, transport, banks, social security, tax. For that, I think that would be a must, because otherwise your people get lost. And they wouldn't have the good first experience with the studio and with the country. And another thing, which isn't the must, because obviously all companies have different abilities, taking a little bit of care of the relatives. Because employees will get entertained at work, they will have job to do, but their spouse or children may struggle in their own ways. And if there is a possibility to help them, that will also complement the experience for employees themselves.
Yeah. Jonna, how about you?
Yes, well, we have tried to offer support in both in both ways. Like before the decision is made that the person will relocate to Finland. So in the final round of interviews, we have included this relocation info session, where the candidate has the possibility to ask every question there is, and it's not an interview, it's the other way around. So they ask questions from us and we just answer them, and also we will tell you some basic facts of Finland and Helsinki, how this works, but not too much to get them confused. And also when the decision is made that they are going to relocate, we made the decision that we use Barna to handle the residence permit. The most professional in these cases, so it builds up like a more confident feeling before they arrive to Helsinki, that they have been supported and they are supported now, and just to be there when they have relocated. Like Katja said, I heard Marina called you Katja.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, that is correct.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So, like you said, it's important to just be there the whole time for the employee and also for the family. So it's also important to support the whole family also. And what we have noticed that booking the times to different offices and having the right documents and forms is now the most difficult one, because before COVID-19 you can just walk to Internet House of Helsinki and get everything done, but now you have to book a time to everywhere. So I would imagine that you first come to Finland and suddenly you have to book like thousands of times in different agencies and offices, and where to book them, you don't have bank IDs or accounts. So I have seen that this is the most difficult part of the for the first steps in the relocation process.
Yeah, it can be a puzzle for foreigners. Bea, how do you see this? What is essential?
Yeah, the same, I'd say, but I'll just add one more thing, which we have noticed to be quite essential, and that's temporary housing. So if not paying for the apartment for the person, then at least like offering the place where the person can find a temporary 1 month apartment, for example, because it's really hard for a person, for example, at the moment, if you come from outside of EU, you apply for the residence permit abroad, you can fly to Finland on the same day when your employment starts. So if you try to find a more permanent solution, and in some cases, some people don't have even social security numbers or Finnish ID when they enter. So yeah, that would be really, really difficult if we wouldn't provide temporary housing.
Yeah. Have you noticed anything that maybe during this last year when things have been difficult, and as Jonna said, for example, some of the processes have changed and they're a little bit more difficult than before. Have you noticed any shift in the needs of the employees when they're relocating, that they need support in something else that maybe hasn't been present before? Katja mentioned healthcare, so maybe this is an issue that comes up more often, but is that true, or is it something else? Katja.
During pandemic, what we have noticed as well, the restrictions and requirements are different from different countries. So when people are relocating from, let's say, for example, India, right? They have their own processes for everything. And when they come during pandemic, when Finland is not completely closed, but there are certain recommendations where you can and cannot go, what you can and cannot do. Before, they would just figure it out, how things work in most of the cases. Right now, you would need to pay their attention and explain in more details how they organize their life in the new environment and with these new settings. Before, we wouldn't bother really, but right now it does require attention.
Yeah. Anything else that you have noticed, Jonna?
Well, I don't know COVID-19, but opening a bank account has been a most difficult one for us. So our stays the first 2 months at Noli Studio Apartments, and we have been super happy with them. But the only issue is that you can register Noli as your permanent or temporary home address, and at least some banks refuses to open a bank account without it. We are now trying to figure this out with Noli, but I don't know if this is a COVID-19, a new rule or something, but this has been quite difficult. And also they have been reducing the times, like the scheduled times in banks. So it can take almost 1 to 2 months to get the bank account. And this makes also getting the permanent apartment more difficult when you don't have the bank IDs or the bank account. So I think this is the most difficult for us.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say we haven't encountered such issues with banks, but the temporary apartments where employees go are such that you can register. Yeah. But like you said, it's nowadays it's super important to have your fingers on the pulse with every country that you hire from, because the restrictions change all the time. There can be country lockdowns, they can be just city lockdowns, there can be embassies that are partially open, they can be closed, and we have this really nice situation where the closest embassy is not actually in the country where you live in, but the next country, which is in lockdown. So there can be so many different scenarios. So I think one good thing is to always have a plan B. And when a person accepts an offer, you explain that, okay, this is the world we're living in, and that things might change really rapidly. But if that happens, then we'll do this or that.
I think that's very important message for the candidates, because the process, as you mentioned, the immigration process takes time, and at the moment it's a little bit unreliable how long it takes. So would you say that employers are ready to wait and prepared? I think you said it very nicely, that having a plan B also is very, very important for the candidates, to give them security, because if you have signed a contract and you start in several months and this changes all the time, it brings you very much insecurity. But I read, at least Bea, that you guys are ready to wait when you make the decision.
Yeah, I think a good rule is that companies should always be ready to wait for exceptional talent. It doesn't mean if the person comes from Finland or abroad. Some people in Finland might have 3 months notice period. So for exceptional talent, we should wait.
Yes. Katja, would you agree with that?
I absolutely agree. And actually, our worst waiting experience happened before pandemic. We've been waiting for a senior artist relocating from India. And the embassy in India worked very strange hours. So he was not able to apply for the job for a few months before he got the appointment. So the whole process took 9 months from the day we made an offer to the day he came to the studio. Afterwards, during pandemic, it improved surprisingly. And now we can expect people to relocate within 3 months, which is already, reasonable, and you can wait. 9, we didn't expect. And to be honest, we would know it would take so long. Most likely, we would go for some other solution there. But absolutely, for good talents, you are always trying to find the good way to continue with.
Yeah, Jonna, Would you agree with that?
Yes, totally agree. And I think because the COVID-19 is in every country and we cannot do anything or make it better. So I think the employers and the employees has to understand the situation, that this is what it is, and let's try to handle the relocation and coming to Finland as fast as we can, but we can't do miracles.
Yeah. And I think a lot of those, I was about to ask you about what kind of challenges have you come across when relocating, and I think some of those came up. The processes have changed. The waiting time is a little bit uncertain. I'm happy to hear that the immigration process, in your view, is maybe faster now. I think Migri has been a lot. The Finnish immigration services have been a lot in the media and criticized about improving that part. And I know that they work hard to do it, but there is still a lot of room for improvement. But what other challenges have you come across that maybe help candidates and other colleagues prepare for what to expect?
I can share an anecdote with the relocation experience from Russia. When there were no flights and no train, although that's the closest country to bring people from, a few candidates decided to drive. So they were driving to Finland, and the whole driving experience was fine. But what they found in the discussion forums of similar people relocating with the cars, that for the first 6 months, they don't need to do anything with the car. They don't need to register it locally if they plan to move it back during 6 months. So they relocated with the cars, paid for the parking, which is not very cheap, found their apartment also with the parking space availability. And then we learned from the tax office that they have to register their cars for the local Finnish inspections, and they cannot move them back afterwards. So the whole experience shifted completely, and there were very conflicting messages given from the tax office and from the border control. And all of them were referring to each other and said, well, it's not our decision, that's tax office decided. And border control was saying, it depends on the particular officer, which position he has or she has. They will either let you go and let you remove your car, or they will not, and you will be taxed for the whole period. So we didn't know that, we never came across, and that was a not very nice surprise. Now we know what to do, but that's pretty much you learn from experience from people who relocated this way.
Yeah, that's actually connected to the address registration. So after you made a permanent registration, then so it's basically the person's registration, the car owner registration. Then after that, you are basically, you need to register the car and pay the tax for importing the car. So, yeah.
Right.
What else, Bear?
Yeah, there can be some really exceptional cases that we haven't encountered before. Just like that, I have currently one case which is the most difficult during my whole career. I'm just waiting for everything to be over and everything go fluently. Where there are, situations that you have never had before. And currently, what's difficult is for European citizens to move to Finland, which is also tricky. And even though you get a message from the border guard that we have estimated that most likely this person will be able to enter the country, they cannot promise it. So that's really risky for the candidate also to see, like in the border, am I able to access the country or not?
Yeah. Jonna?
Yes, we have kind of sadly laughed about this same issue that when we are trying to bring a person from the EU, it's much more difficult than bringing a person outside of EU. So this has been an interesting thing. And actually, we managed to bring someone from Sweden, Bea. So
Nice.
yes, so I sent a message to Finnish border that can we have a permit, like a special permit for this person to come. And they called me and say that, okay, this is fine. And this person can come. But yes, they said the same thing, that I am not 100% sure if this person can come. So we took a risk, but all went well. Thank God. But yeah, I think that has been the most same time funny and sad thing in these processes. But yeah, we figured it out and it went well. So take a risk, Bea. It went well, and the person came to Finland.
Yeah, well, actually, the tricky case that I'm talking about here is that the couple has an EU blue card, which is technically they're not EU citizens, but they have EU blue card, which is permitted for them in another EU country, and the permit that they have in Finland is a special expert. So
okay.
That's just one part. That's the small issue. There are so many. This is like the most exceptional case. There are so many exceptions in the case. But yeah.
And we are also very confused about all the COVID-19 tests that you have to take in different places when you fly to Finland. So we have been like, okay, so you have to take a test there. Oh, okay, now you don't have to take a test there. And yeah, it has been full of surprises, but you get wiser all the time.
Yeah, exciting at least.
Yes.
Yes, and the testing and travel restrictions, they change quite a lot all the time. And as you said, in different countries, they changed also. So you need to keep checking them. And the family, you mentioned earlier that the family plays a very important role in the decision and also in the integration here. So what is your view? How, or maybe some tips, how have you found ways to support the families? I think, Katja, you mentioned that to find some ways to support the families, but how do you do that? How do you find the resources? Or is it your own resources? How do you do this?
Well, we realized that we need to pay much more attention at that, because that contributes to the employee well-being a lot. And for those who relocate with families right away, the relocation agency usually offers some support for registering relatives, for finding schools or daycares, and introducing people to different language courses and support groups, which we wouldn't be aware of, for example. Also, every now and then we try to arrange different small activities for the relatives, for spouses, and for children. During COVID, it's more difficult, so the number of people who can get in one space is limited. But even with that, we did little gathering for Easter to do some handcrafts with the spouses. And for children, we did the eggs hunt also, in the office. But we had to do it also several times during several days, because you can only get 6 people with whoever is facilitating. Yeah. So it's not a lot during this time, which you can, but at least shows that, we care. We do pay enough emphasis on that. And another thing on the families, during this time, potentially candidates may need to be prepared mentally that maybe they will not be able to visit their families back home for a while. Coming into the country is one thing, but leaving the country is another thing. And of course, you can always say, okay, I'm never going to come back, I'm just leaving forever. But if it's just a holiday, you want to go back home and see your family, then it may either, prolong your holiday for a while, so you need to be prepared to work remotely, or you even will not be able to go to your home country because there are restrictions on the Finnish side, and this country is in the red zone. So that's also a decision for the candidate to make before they relocate, especially if they leave their families behind. Sometimes it happens due to various reasons.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Bea, what do you think? What is your experience?
Yeah, well, we recently started working with the relocation partner recently. In the past, we have done everything on our own. So part of the actual package, we provide spouse support, kindergarten, school search, and much more. And then we aim at having different kind of activities and events where all the families can join. Of course, it's a bit more trickier to attend offline activities and parties, although they do happen. So for example, our Christmas parties were for the whole family to attend. What else? Yeah, Finnish language courses. We have had those in the past. We have had 2 different courses, so technically beginner class and then beginner 2. Now we're looking into different options there if we change the course somehow. And then we have these little things, where people get familiar with Finnish traditions and all, because there's, for example, 2 events in Finland close by. One of them is Easter that went past, and the next one is 1st of May. So we sent everyone raeruoho. That's
grass.
kind of grass seeds that's related to a Finnish tradition during Easter, and explaining how that works, and so the whole family gets to grow grass. Technically.
Cool.
And then next week we're gonna have a SEMA workshop. So the Finnish drink that we make during Vappu, 1st of May.
Yes. Cool. Jonna, what cool tips do you have to share?
Well, yes, very nice to hear what you have done in your studios. I will surely copy those. But the one thing I do is I offer the relocation info call to spouses too. So I will have a 1-hour call with spouses to answer their questions. But usually they have more questions than the employee because the employee is already focusing on the work. So it's much more easier to have the call and then show them some websites and where you can find everything and what kind of cool places to visit in their first weeks in Helsinki. And we have noticed that this has been very good thing to do. And yes, our employees have been pretty independent in these things, and our office coordinator has helped some of our employees with finding kindergartens and schools. So it has also been a nice support to families. But yeah.
Yeah. How about I would like to ask you to share some insight or maybe some practical tips on the onboarding process. So the survey showed that then we had actually an open answer question for that one, and many of the answers were focusing on the fact that since we do everything remotely, it's just very difficult and it requires much more meetings than actually you mentioned it also for the recruitment process. So have you found something that has worked and has made this process easier? Who would like to start? Bea?
Well, our onboarding process for locals and non-Finns is pretty same, to be honest, if we only think about onboarding to the job itself and the company. But then of course there's the Finnish language courses that is equivalent to only them, and then obviously everyone is assigned a mentor, but not sure if I said in this during this panel or the previous one, but our company is built on transparency and trust, appreciating one another. So we try to keep a really low barrier for people to be able to ask questions and get the support they need. So really transparent. And then we one thing that we do is that we figure out some kind of process that if we're remote, then how often, like, is it okay I ping anyone at any given time? What kind of rules do we have in working remotely?
Yeah. Katja?
I can echo what Bea said. No real difference between locals and those who start remotely, because most of the interactions which involves the whole company would be online anyway. So what we do for onboarding happens between the hiring manager and the team the person is joining. There would be the company introduction, which happens on the day one. Then there would be the game introduction happening on the same day, and participation in the internal test. So the person will learn on the day one what they're going to be working on. And afterwards, usually within like a week or two, we would have the virtual coffee with this newcomer, when the person can ask questions, or they can also tell people about themselves, because there would be a very limited number of people still who have met person during the recruitment time. And then that's the possibility to get introduced and see where people have more connections outside of work. And then, of course, possibility to learn about different company activities and build more bridges.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And another thing which is not really connected to newcomers that much, we have our CEO who schedules regular calls with every employee, like on the rotation. So every 3 everybody would have an opportunity to just have a chat, ask anything. So we have same principles with Seriously, and we do believe it helps maintaining good culture and good atmosphere. And he makes extra efforts to just simply call everyone and talk about like kids, hobbies, life, work, whatever. And people really like it, because that's really low level. There are no restrictions.
Yeah. Jonna, would you add? What would you add?
Yes, well, we have arranged a onboard buddy to everyone, to every our new employee, whether they come from different country or if they come from Finland. But for expat workers, we have arranged a onboard buddy who is also an expat worker too, and has done all these same things, and visit the offices and getting apartments. So that the new employee will also have to do. And also I would say that the people coming abroad, it's much more important to give them some emotional support and try to talk with them. And I try to talk with our new expat employees every week for the first 3 months after they have get their bank account working, more permanent apartment. So after those things, life usually starts to settle down. But before those things are done, I try to call them every week.
So communication seems to be the common factor for communication and transparency.
And like Katja said, it's so different because you can't see your relatives or other family members. So I think we have to make sure that they have the emotional support from the employer.
We have just a couple of minutes, and I see that there's so many questions here. Oleg, have you managed to review them? Which one would you pick that we can answer here? Maybe we can then get back to those in the chat.
Yes, in the chat. Thank you very much, Marina, Bea, Jonna, and Katja. This was amazing. I mean, and a lot of fun. I learned myself a lot. I actually wrote quite a lot. Other than the time zone difference and lack of face-to-face interactions, do you have any legal challenges to hire people from abroad to work remotely?
So you mean that we hire people who start working for Seriously from another country than from Finland?
Yes. Or hire somebody to work remotely before relocating?
Yeah, there's always a PE risk, permanent establishment risk. Then taxation, you need to figure out what the taxation is in Finland. And in that country, then usually it costs a bit more than having a permanent employee in Helsinki. That's shortly what I can think of.
I would say that in those cases, maybe freelance start would be probably the most flexible start. But yeah, if you would like to employ, probably, yeah, those are the main.
Yeah, but if you're a big gaming company that has locations in many different many countries, then you are able to most likely do so that someone starts to work for seriously from, I don't know, Germany, if we have a legal entity as a company in Germany, only that person does work for seriously.
And last quick question: do you pay less to foreigners? I like this
No,
question.
definitely not.
Yes. I just wanted to hear you say that. Yes.
Equal opportunity country.
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
This was amazing to listen to you. And thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.